Hey everyone, welcome back to the Easy Conversations podcast. This is the first episode of 2021. I'm super excited to connect with all of you again in the new year. I hope you enjoyed your holiday break. I'm your host, Furkan Dandia, and in this week's episode, I'm sitting down with VERSVS. VERSVS is a local Calgarian rapper, and in this episode, we talk about his most recent album called Invisible, and we specifically talk about a track from the album, which is also called Invisible. In this track, Versus talks about his own journey through mental health, especially with OCD. In this episode, Versus also shares some of the work he's done over the years and the tools and resources he's used to battle his mental health challenges. He also talks about the work he continues to do on an ongoing basis. Um, I hope you get as much as I did from this episode. If you can leave a review at the end, I would truly appreciate it. And we'll jump right into it. Welcome to the podcast, Versus. I'm again grateful for you to join and super excited to have this conversation. Thanks for taking the time. And yeah, I just want to give an opportunity for you to introduce yourself, where you're from. And yeah, we'll touch on a bunch of stuff today.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me, first of all. Yeah, I go by Versus. That is my stage name. I'm a rapper. I'm from Calgary, Canada, or that's where I live now, anyways. I'm originally Italian. Kind of lived all over the place, but I moved to Calgary around 6, 7 years ago. And now I'm making music full time. I started releasing music kind of on a more serious professional level around 3 years ago. Things have been going well. So, yeah, just rapping and making music.
That's cool. Yeah. So you're local Calgary based. That's awesome. We don't have a lot of talent here, so that's amazing. So how long have you been rapping for?
So I started writing pretty early. I think I was 14, 15 when I started writing. That's when I first kind of discovered hip hop and really got into hip hop and started listening to a lot of stuff. And then I guess I recorded my first few songs when I was like 16, 17, but that was like more just at home, kind of a hobby thing.
Hmm.
They were probably terrible. And then, progressively it got better until, yeah, 3 years ago was when I actually started recording in like high quality studios, like better environments for music, and started releasing it. And as soon as it started going well, and people were tuned in and interested in what I had to say, then I took it more seriously, and here we are now.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then your album Invisible came out in September.
Yeah.
Was that your first full album?
No, it was actually my second full album. My first one was January 2019. Yeah, I believe that's right. And it was called Time Will Tell. So that was my first album. But this one is definitely a much bigger project. Features a lot more, relevant artists, American rappers that I've looked up to for a long time, which, it was amazing to work with them. And even numbers wise, it's definitely my biggest project. I think the first album um, got around 250,000 on Spotify. This one is approaching 1 million now, so there's definitely growth. Yeah, it's my biggest project up to now for sure.
For sure. That's awesome. And then I guess for tours and stuff, obviously with COVID, that's impacted you a little bit, right? You haven't been able to promote the album as much as you would have liked.
Yeah, yeah. I guess we would have definitely liked to do more live shows. I never really did like a full national tour or anything like that, but I was just starting to perform here in Alberta. Did a few shows in Calgary, including opening for Tyga, which was probably my biggest performance. So it
Yeah.
was starting to pick up, and then as soon as it was doing well, COVID hit. So we kind of forgot about live performances for a while now.
Yeah.
But we're
Yeah.
excited to get back to that when this is done.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, and I wish you the best of luck going forward. I guess one of the things that inspired me to reach out to you, and obviously we connected on Instagram, and your track from the album, which is also called Invisible.
Yeah,
It touches on a lot of important aspects, but I wanted to explore that with you a little bit, maybe talking through some of the messages you're trying to deliver and what kind of inspired you to talk about these issues.
sure. So yeah, as you said, the song has the pretty much gives the name to the whole project, and that's because I think it's the most meaningful song, and and kind of my introduction to the world. That's how I approached the track, anyways. It was like it's pretty much a story of my life in 3 verses. So obviously, as concise as it may be, but I tried to touch on every important thing that happened in my life leading to this point now when the album was released. So it's definitely probably my most personal song in that way.
Hmm.
And yeah, obviously, one of the main aspects, because I dealt with that in the past, is regarding mental health, and more specifically OCD, of which I've suffered from for a long time. And so yeah, that was a big element of the song, and one of the main reasons I wrote the song was to kind of raise awareness for that as well. And yeah, it was just to introduce myself to people who may have not heard about me. Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess you talk about a lot of things in that song as well around not being noticed, not being heard. Like,
Mhm.
obviously, like when you're struggling with mental health, the biggest piece is being able to talk about it, right? And
Mhm.
was that something you suffered from as well, like not having the opportunity to have a voice or be able to express yourself?
Yeah, for sure. Well, first of all, for me and my OCD, what really didn't help was that I didn't know it was called OCD, and I didn't really know it was a thing at all.
Hmm.
Um, so I kind of went years just thinking I was the only one in the entire world suffering from this thing and having these weird thoughts or these weird rituals that I used to do. Um, and that's I understand it now that it's very important to know what it is and to talk about it, because once you understand more people are going through that, you can relate and you can talk to these people about it, help each other, and that's like pretty much fundamental. Um, and you need that to get better and to improve, right? I
Yeah.
didn't have that for a long time, and that's why hip hop was so important to me, is because that was the way I would express myself. If I couldn't talk about it to my friends because I didn't want to or didn't want to bring it up, I could always write about it,
Hmm.
and so that's how rap became so important to me. It kind of gave me a voice in that sense.
Absolutely. And that's an important point you touch on because, writing is a form of expression. And,
Yeah,
a lot of therapists nowadays talk about journaling. So in your way, you were kind of doing that, but
yeah,
in more of an artistic fashion, and you were able to sing about it, which is cool.
yeah.
And obviously you're getting a lot of recognition for this track. How does that make you feel? Like, do you feel like you're getting that message out there, and are you able to help others?
Um, yeah, I mean, I don't want to say I'm like out here saving lives or anything, but it is nice to have people message me and say, that this song has helped them through some tough times, or made them understand a few things about
Hmm.
themselves, or made them reach out to people. It's always very nice to hear that my music can be that impactful. Um, but yeah, I think what helped with that as well was the video for the song, which I think is probably one of the things I'm most proud of for the album, was this video that was just released like a week ago.
Hmm.
Not even actually, but yeah, I really wanted to give that visual representation, and touch on the mental health even from a visual perspective, for people that maybe didn't really listen to the song or pay attention to the lyrics. That's why I think that's what videos are important for. So yeah, it's nice. People are definitely enjoying the song, and the feedback has been positive, so it's great.
Yeah, so do you mind like touching on the video a little bit? Like what visual kind of demonstration were you
Yeah.
targeting? Yeah.
So the main idea, I worked with an amazing director called Director Frenzy here in Calgary. He's done pretty much the biggest videos here in the city,
Hmm.
and we went into this video. The first idea we had when we started the script was that we wanted um, a twist at the end. So basically, the video, you see someone dragging me, and
Yeah.
I'm kind of dead, dragging me through the forest, dragging me through a parking lot. I'm bleeding, all that very graphic stuff. And then we wanted the twist to be that at the end you would reveal that, as I take my hoodie off, the killer is in fact myself, and I've been kind of killing myself through the whole video.
Hmm.
So that has different kinds of meanings. It's always nice that people can kind of interpret it the way they want to. But what I see, or what I wanted it to be, was that was kind of the mental health part, was that I was kind of killing myself in my own brain. Like
Yeah.
I was the one doing all the damage to myself, pretty much
Hmm.
self-inflicting, let's say. And then another angle to that was the fact that that version of myself, as I'm improving my mental health through these years and getting better, that version of myself does not exist anymore,
Hmm.
and I'm now someone new. So those are kind of the two angles to the twist there at the end of the video.
For sure. And has that been your journey? Like, have you been able to work through it? Obviously, you have a lot more awareness now, but what is some of the work you've been able to do, and what are
So
you continuing to do?
yeah, well, definitely, if anyone listens, going through these things, a therapist is always encouraged. I think that's it's good because it's not taboo anymore, right? Years
Yeah.
ago, it used to be, but definitely talk to people. It always helps. Doing those exercises and talking to a professional is definitely a very important thing. For me, it was the moment I realized. I think I Googled my symptoms for the first time, and
Hmm.
when I realized what it was called, and started looking at videos and learning about other people's experiences with OCD in particular, is when automatically I just started getting better because I could now talk to people or listen
Hmm.
um, to these people's stories and kind of adapt and try to work on it myself. So slowly that leads to opening up to family and friends because
Yeah.
you're now kind of more comfortable talking about it because it's not only you,
Hmm.
and that helps a lot. And then yeah, I think I did a lot of reading, and a lot of writing for me. I think everyone kind of has their own lane that helps them, their own thing.
Hmm. Hmm.
For me, it was writing about it every time I would have these well, it's called like obsessive thoughts in OCD's case. I would write about them rather than repeat them over and over in my head.
Hmm.
So that's what helped me. But I'm sure people have different ways of coping.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's no one right solution, and most often, people do try different methods to be able to
Yeah.
work through it. And is that something you're continuing to do? Like, is that something you still struggle with, and writing is again your form of expression?
I think I've kept that element of constantly writing,
Yeah.
all my thoughts and everything that is in my mind because that's what works best for me for the creative process, anyways. But thankfully, my OCD is definitely not as how can I say, prevailing as it was. It's not
Hmm.
as important as it was. So I'm definitely doing better under that mental health perspective. But I think even though it does get better, or even though someone might think that it's completely gone,
Hmm.
uh, it's always important to keep working on it and keep talking to a therapist because just like a lot of other problems that people might have, such as addiction, it can come back.
Hmm.
There can be one moment, there can be a relapse. So yeah, it's always important to keep working, even though you might feel like you got to where you want to be. It's still important to keep going.
Yeah, no, that's awesome that you mentioned that, and you're right, because there is always the potential for having setbacks.
Yeah.
And what I tell people is that, setbacks are normal.
Yeah.
You can't feel guilty or shameful. You just need to
Mhm.
have that forgiveness for yourself and keep moving in the right direction, right? So that's important that you've highlighted. I guess when you did open up to your family and friends, how was it received? And did you I know you mentioned because you realized that you weren't the only one struggling, you didn't feel as fearful sharing your
Yeah.
story, but
Yeah.
how was it received by others around you?
I think I was lucky enough to have a very supportive environment. Both family and friends were very supportive. I know
Hmm.
not too many people are lucky in that sense. It might be harder for some people, but I've always considered myself, blessed in that sense with a nice family. Um, yeah, just a supportive parents, supportive siblings. Um, so yeah, obviously it's sad for them to know.
Hmm.
In the beginning, it might be something challenging for them to accept or deal with. But at the same time, um, even though we didn't maybe talk about it directly or addressed it directly, I think anyone around me knew something was wrong because it was pretty clear and visible in my
Hmm.
case. Um, because for what my experience with OCD, when some of the rituals entailed me doing
Hmm.
certain things that are not very normal, and I
Hmm.
tried to hide them. I tried to do it by myself when people weren't around, but it definitely happened various times that people were around and saw me. So I think they knew. So I think it was kind of maybe a relief for them as well to know that it had a name, and it was something that I could now work on and
Hmm.
improve. But yeah, definitely supportive. Definitely, they helped a lot. I don't know if I could have done it and worked that well without them.
Hmm.
I'm thankful for that as well.
Yeah, no, that's amazing, and kudos to them for showing you that support and helping you through it. I guess this might be a tough question, but knowing what you know now, like, would you do things differently when you were younger? Like, and would you have more? Obviously, you have a better understanding of
Yeah.
some of the symptoms, but would you have done things differently?
Well, I think if I knew what it was in the beginning or knew how to prevent it or work on it, my life would have definitely been very different.
Hmm.
It probably wouldn't have lasted that long, and it probably wouldn't have had such a big impact on everything I did.
Hmm.
Uh, and it's sad to say, but sometimes I do feel like I wasted entire years of my life because I remember going to the few times I went out and my friends convinced me to go out, I would go.
Hmm.
This is during like the peak. I would
Yeah.
go watch movies and get out of the movie theater and had no idea what movie I even watched because I was in my head the entire time.
Hmm.
Uh, or going to school and not remembering a single thing I learned that day. So I definitely wasted or not wasted. I guess just it just had a huge toll on everything I did.
Hmm.
So I do think my life would have been different, but at the same time, it shapes who I am now. So it's hard to look at and
Yeah.
regret it
Yeah.
because I wouldn't be me now. So it's just something I accept and kind of move on.
For sure. No, and that's amazing. And do you feel like you're like looked upon as a role model now for kids that obviously are watching your art, um, and kind of listening to your lyrics? Do you feel like you're a role model in that sense?
I mean, I wouldn't use that word just because I definitely didn't reach as many people as I want to reach yet. I'm not,
Hmm.
as popular or as famous as you would considered using the word role model with. Like
Hmm.
usually it's used for like bigger celebrities, right? I'm very aware I'm nowhere near that level. uh but I do kind of want to try to have a voice for these people because that's
Hmm.
what attracted me to hip hop initially.
Hmm.
It was these rappers that gave a voice to us in the audience, like people that felt like they didn't have one. So if I
Hmm.
can do that for kids now, or anyone that can gain some, yeah, if they can get any help from my songs or my content, then that would be amazing. I would like to have that voice and that impact, but I don't think I'm the one to judge me based on that. I don't know. You'd have to ask people that listen to my music.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I think, I mean, it's important, right? Like, I think just sharing that message and being vulnerable does make a huge difference, right? And there's obviously, a lot more awareness now around mental health. We're talking about it more. Um, so for someone like yourself to come out and talk about it too is instrumental, I think, for anyone listening, right? It just adds to that layer of feeling comfortable in terms of talking about it. So I guess now where you are, like, what else is on the go? What kind of projects are you working on? And yeah, what's the future like for
Well,
you?
we always have. When I say we, it's I have a small team here, my
Hmm.
my manager and a couple people helping me out. But we always have the idea or vision of topping anything we previously released. So if
Hmm.
if as I said earlier, the previous album did a certain number, this album did this, we're already looking forward to the next album and doing better and bigger because that's the mindset we need to have
Yeah.
to succeed. It's a very competitive environment, oversaturated environment, which doesn't help.
Hmm.
So in order to stand out, work ethic is going to have to be impeccable. Um, but yeah, I have a lot of content already planned to be released. I can kind of give you some dates already. Um, the video was the last thing I released. That was
Hmm.
December 13th, and I'm releasing a new single on January 1st to start the year strong.
Yeah.
A new song 3 weeks after that, and another one 3 weeks after that. So it's going to be a busy January and February to start the year well. So yeah, we're looking forward to working with bigger names. That's always a goal we have.
Yeah.
I always try to collaborate with rappers that I've looked up to because that just means a lot to me, and it's always a goal that we have. But yeah, more videos, more songs, more features. Um, Hopefully more interviews like these podcasts just to
Yeah.
try to reach out to whoever wants to tune in and whoever can benefit from these conversations.
Absolutely. No, and that's amazing. I guess one of the things like you mentioned was work ethic, and what are some of the things you do to maintain that? Obviously work ethic involves discipline.
Yeah,
So how do you keep yourself grounded? Obviously you've got goals,
yeah.
but I think most people also struggle with the fame, right? How do you keep yourself grounded and have that discipline to maintain that work ethic?
Yeah, well, again, I don't think I'm at that level where the fame would have a negative impact on me. But in case that does happen, which is eventually the goal to
Hmm.
get to that level, um, I think for me, I always the main focus for me and the importance is always putting music out and reaching people we want to reach. I have very little time to kind of think about the other effects. I'm always focused on the music itself and the process. Um, Definitely, one thing artists do struggle with is writer's block, for example.
Hmm.
I think everyone that makes music or raps especially has that. So yeah, I kind of find my own ways and little strategies that work for me. I almost force myself. Like there's many times where I book studio sessions in advance without even having anything ready, just
Hmm.
because that forces me to write the day before or to have to get something done. Because it's very easy to become complacent and oh, I just really like get into that mindset where you're
Hmm.
like, I just released a song, now I can wait a bit.
Hmm.
We never look at things like that. I always look forward to the next song I'm releasing and the next song and the next song. So it's good to have that mindset and to focus on the process itself, not necessarily the end
Hmm.
goal. Because first of all, you never know if it's actually going to happen or how long it's going to take. So you need to enjoy the process in order to be successful.
Yeah, no, and that's important, staying in the present,
Yeah.
and having that mindset for sure. So I guess if you wanted to share a message to the listeners, or I know you've touched on a lot of things around your own struggles and how you were able to seek help and talk about it.
Yeah.
Um, like, what about people that are scared to be able to open up? Like, what kind of message would you share? Considering your platform too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's important to know you're not alone. That's something I said in the beginning of this conversation, but
Hmm.
I think it's the most important thing. And they probably listen to music, if not me, tons of other rappers, and you will always hear these artists talk about their own issues and
Hmm.
their own mental health, or actors that might talk about it in interviews, and that just shows you that you're not alone. They might have slightly different problems,
Hmm.
maybe not your exact circumstance or situation, but it shows that you're not alone and that all of us have those obstacles and those issues. So um, again, I was lucky that people were so supportive around me, but I'm sure that that if these people do open up, they will eventually find that person that will listen to them and give good advice. And again, talk to a professional. That's what they're there for, right? So
Hmm.
um, yeah, I think it's important to know that they're not alone and that there's help out there for sure. There's tons of available resources online.
Hmm.
For me, a basic Google search opened my eyes to
Yeah.
so, it's as simple as that. So I know it's hard to get the courage to do it, but it helps a lot. So it's definitely worth it.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that. And again, I just want to thank you for coming here and sharing the message. It's been amazing to hear your story. What I appreciate about everything you've said is you're very humble, and you've maintained that same kind of mindset of continuing to get better, but also seeking help and being open about your issues, which helps other people too, right? So that's very helpful. I guess if people wanted to reach out to you, or kind of find you on social media and stuff, what's the best way to find you?
Yeah. So Instagram is definitely the platform I use the most, and that's Versus Official. Versus is spelled VERSVS, and then official. That's my biggest platform for sure. But if they search Versus on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, I'm out on all social media and all streaming platforms. So they can find all my music there. Spotify and Apple Music are definitely the biggest ones. Both my albums are there. I'm releasing content very consistently, but I also do take time to talk to pretty much everyone in my DMs on Instagram when I
Hmm.
can. So I try to engage as much as I can with my fans. And going back to that mental health thing, that is a conversation that comes out a lot. Even on
Yeah.
DMs, I always try to help if I can. So yeah, those are the best ways.
Yeah, and I can attest to that because you responded to me on Instagram too. So that
Uh,
was awesome.
yeah, yeah.
I guess one last thing before we end this, but what inspired the name Versus for you?
Oh, that was kind of a play on words. So verses, the verses in a song, and
Hmm.
then I always had that mindset of me being kind of versus everyone else. So those two things together, pretty much, my
Yeah.
verses versus the whole world. That's kind of the spirit that I always had writing. Again, hip hop is a very competitive genre too, so it's good to have that mindset. But then I put them together, and then I just did that, spelling thing where the last two letters are VS.
Yeah.
Um, I know some people have difficulties like knowing how to pronounce that if they didn't hear it
Yeah.
a couple times, but yeah, it's just pronounced as versus. It's just spelled different. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much.
Oh,
Again, thank you
thanks
for
for having
coming on here and sharing your message.
me. Yeah, thank you, man.
Well, that's the end of the podcast. Thanks again for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. And again, please leave a review at the end of the episode. I would truly appreciate it. Until next week.